Hello and welcome to this long yin practice to give you an opportunity to reset, to rest on a really deep level, to recharge your batteries and to just spend some quality time with yourself in some stillness, some silence, caring for your body, your nervous system in a really beautiful, slow way. The physical focus of this practice is the lower body, so any tension, soreness through the legs will feel hopefully really nice after this practice. But really with yin, at least personally, I find that it doesn't matter, unless I'm particularly sore somewhere, it doesn't matter too much what the physical postures are. They have all of their energetic qualities, but really it's about giving the mind a chance to just be. Lots of spaciousness. So in saying that, if a shape doesn't feel good for your body, choose something else that you know that might bring out about the same kind of physical texture or sensation, or that just feels good and intuitive in that moment. There's no pressure to do exactly what I recommend. Similar to that, I recommend having as many props as you can get a hold of to feel really supported throughout the practice in whatever shapes you do take. I have a yoga bolster, which is really great and useful. If you don't have something like this, a long pillow like this can be really great, or just as many cushions as you can. I've also got one cushion. I've got a blanket, which can be really nice to support you, but also at the end for savasana. And I've got 2 yoga blocks, so you can use heavy books, you can use food containers, which can be really good. Anything that you know might support you through this practice, gather that now and then we'll get started. Our first shape today will be a supine butterfly. So come towards the top of your mat or your space, bringing the soles of your feet together, knees wide. From here, to support the knees, you might not want them supported, or you could have blocks underneath the knees on little angles. Or I quite like to have a rolled up blanket on the top of my feet and then underneath my knees. And that feels really comfy and supportive. You might even have both. I might go for that today. From here, you can recline back any amount. It can be straight onto the floor, can be on cushions, or maybe on a bolster, either on a kind of ramp with blocks underneath or flat on the mat. Make sure there's not too much tension on your lower back. You can move the hips a little further away from the prop under your spine if that's coming up. And take your time to settle in. You might like to have the hands wide, or maybe on the belly, maybe one on the heart, one on the belly. Take your pick. Close down the eyes if you feel comfortable. And take any last adjustments that you might need so that you've got about 70% sensation. We're looking mainly for this to be through the inner thighs in this shape. You might also have some across the chest, the spine. And as you take your final shifts, eventually come into stillness. Land your awareness on the breath moving through. Watch the full length of the inhale, the full length of the exhale. In and out through the nose, maybe out through the mouth if you need it for the first few breaths to land. On each breath in, filling the belly, feeling the navel, the belly button rise. And on each breath out, softening something into the earth, into the props supporting you. The feet relax. The knees relax. The pelvis gets nice and heavy. The whole spine softening down. Shoulders relaxing down away from the ears. Both arms and hands soften, surrender. The skull gets heavy, softening the space between the eyebrows and the tongue away from the roof of the mouth. Each breath into the belly, each breath out, a softening, surrendering into the moment. Riding each wave of breath away from whatever's happened in your day so far, away from the external world, and into the sanctuary of this yin yoga practice. I'll now offer adding a count to the breath, which I'll guide you through as we come into Vishamavritti Pranayama. Today we'll be doing this with a 4-count inhale and an 8-count exhale, so that we can begin to really slow down the breath out to signal to the nervous system to move into a parasympathetic state, the resting, digesting, and connecting state. I'll guide you through. If you need to shorten or lengthen any count, go for it. Make sure you're not straining. And you might like to bring your hands to your belly if they're not there already, to connect in to the rise and fall of the belly as we breathe. Wherever you are, exhale the breath. Inhale for 4, 3, 2, 1, out 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, in 3, 2, 1, out 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, in 3, 2, 1, out 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, in 3, 2, 1, out 7, 6, 5, 4, in 3, 2, 1, out 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, in 3, out 7, in 3, out 7, release the count and come back to your normal breath. Full breath in, full breath out, re-regulating to a nice slow pace. In through the nose, out through the nose. Staying in this shape here for 3 more breaths. After your 3rd exhale, right at its end, bring the hands to the outside of the thighs to gently guide the knees towards each other. Slowly roll over to one side to come off any prop that might be underneath the spine, and move all props out to the side so that you can recline into a supine position for your rebound. The legs extend, arms open, Back of the head to the earth. Landing here and witnessing as sensation integrates. Noticing when the mind begins to wander away from this moment of stillness and simplicity. And gently asking it to just come back, stay for a little while longer, watching the breath, watching any remaining sensation ripple through. Watching the subtle rise and fall of the belly. Begin to bend the knees, bringing the soles of the feet to the earth, and roll over onto a preferred side into a fetal position, holding yourself here, cocooning in for a moment. With the hand that's on top in front of the heart, gently press yourself up to a seat, keeping your awareness inwards, maybe even the eyes still closed or downcast. Our next shape will be a square. For this, bring the legs into a kind of loose cross-legged position, right leg in forward for the first one. And you might stay here with the legs kind of crossed, making them relatively parallel and straight in line with the knees. And then you might kind of walk the hips back a little to find a long spine. You might also like a folded blanket or a cushion to elevate the hips on, because we will be folding forward, so this can really help in folding forward in a nice way with integrity through the spine. If you have the space, you can also stack one shin on top of the other, right shin on top, if that feels okay through your ankles, and if that creates more sensation for you in the hip that feels good. From here, folding forward any amount, you might fold over blocks or containers, bringing your forehead down. You might be a little more upright and feel enough in the hip, perhaps cuddling a cushion or bolster to just create a little bit of comfort. or you might have that cushion down, cuddling into it, perhaps on a bit of a ramp with a block like this. Take your pick of what feels nourishing for you, where you can feel most supported and that you don't need to hold yourself. And that can of course be sitting upright in a quite relaxed way, maybe even with the spine rounding slightly. But again, really take your time to create that shape. And then settle in. Find your breath. Each breath into the belly. Each breath out a cue to soften physically, or perhaps on a more subtle level, softening into this space. Opening to sensation, to the reality of your experience. Opening and softening to the stillness, which can sometimes create some resistance, particularly since we lead such stimulating lives. Yin Yoga philosophy invites us to take an attitude of willingness over willfulness. Willfulness being this hardening in the face of discomfort or boredom, whereas willingness is this open-hearted curiosity, engagement with the moment. Notice if you're hardening, becoming willful to get through the sensation or the long time that we're resting here in stillness. And see how you can open your heart a little to the moment. Notice how your experience just a few moments or minutes ago has changed into what it is now. Perhaps your thoughts are lingering on something else. Perhaps your energy is feeling a little different, or the sensations in the body have shifted. And landing into where you are right now, take 5 more breaths here. Slow, intentional, nourishing breaths. And after your 5th exhale, begin to really slowly come back upright, moving an inch a second, really taking your time to lift and stack the vertebra. And then leaning back to unravel the legs. And again, our rebound will be lying back on our spines. So remove the props and slowly find your way onto your back. You might like some windscreen wipers just to release any remaining stuckness through the hip, sending the knees left and right before eventually letting them go long. Resting back into stillness, committing to this pause in your day and witnessing the sensations, the breath. Each time the mind is stimulated away from this current experience is an opportunity rather than a distraction, an opportunity to return back with more depth, to venture further into the practice of presence. Again, bend the knees, bringing the feet to the earth. And once again, roll over to a preferred side. to eventually guide your way on up. We'll do a second shape focusing on the right leg. Now focusing on the front of the right thigh. Bring the legs into a deer shape. The left shin is forward and the right shin is kind of out towards the right, and the legs are in this kind of 90-90, or these two kind of triangle shapes. So set that up. Then from there you might like, again, like we did in the first shape, a bolster or some cushions behind you. I quite like to create a bit of a ramp with my bolster. And in the legs in this shape we'll be reclining back any amount, and the sensation, as I said, should be, there might be a bit through the inner thigh of the left leg, but it really should be through the front of that right thigh is our focus. And you might like to place a blanket or cushion just underneath the right foot if it feels uncomfortable there. Now, if this isn't enough, you can extend the left leg long and draw the knees towards each other, the right knee towards the left, to come more into a half saddle shape, which can be quite strong on this front of the thigh and the lower back. So take your pick of what feels better for you today. And really take your time, as we've been doing, to set it up, to make it feel supported. Play with where you'd like the arms to be. If you'd like any blocks, cushions under the knees or feet. And eventually settle into that stillness. Each inhale fills the belly. Each exhale creating softness, heaviness. Remember that everything that you might perceive as a distraction can be treated as an opportunity to come back to this moment with more depth, to linger in that space between the stimulus and your response. Take 5 more breaths right where you are. Only at the end of your final exhale, you might bring the left sole of the foot to the earth and guide the right one there first. Or you might choose to roll to one side and lift up first. Whatever feels more intuitive. Again, as you might expect, we'll move the props to one side and find a rebound on our backs. Letting sensation integrate. Notice any difference between the two sides of the body, between the two legs. Bring the soles of the feet back to the earth, bending the knees. Really taking your time to roll to one side. Bringing a yin-like quality to each part of the practice, not just the shapes and rebounds themselves, but also the transitions. Slowly press yourself up to a seat. We'll come into the second side of each of those, starting with our square, with the left shin either in front of the right, knees pretty much in line with each other, or with the shins stacked, maybe a block between the left knee and right ankle, maybe not. Taking your pick, maybe you just walk the sitting bones back a little or elevate them on a cushion or a folded blanket. And you might stay upright, perhaps cuddling a bolster. Or you might hinge from the hips, leading from the heart to fold forward, feeling into any sensation that arises in the outside of the left hip. Maybe through the inner thighs, maybe through the spine. Just notice, scan through as you settle in. Tend to any areas that might create pain throughout the time, the knees, the neck. Making sure you feel supported and then settle into the stillness. Commit to creating space between stimulus and response. Noticing what it feels like to just watch sensations like itches or niggles that might normally bring up an automatic response of going to that itch, for example. And instead, witness that sensation, watch it with curiosity as it moves through, knowing that most likely it's passing through transiently. And then come back to your breath. Noticing again how what might have been in your awareness just a few moments ago has shifted already. Constantly inviting the mind back to remember the present moment, to what's true right now. begin to slowly, inch by inch, guide yourself back up. You might use the hands to support the unraveling of the legs as you transition again into a neutral rebound on the floor. Again, you might like some gentle windscreen wipers side to side to just flush out a little through the hips. And then again, come into the stillness. One at a time, bend the knees, feet to the mat. Roll to one side in this yin-like way. Taking your time, eventually to press yourself up and set up with the same slow pace into your reclined deer. This time with the right shin in front and the left shin parallel with perhaps the edge of your mat or the side wall that you might be near. And again, you can use blocks or cushions under the feet or knees. And you can also take the option of half saddle with the right leg extended and the knees a little closer together, if this doesn't create enough sensation through the front of the thigh. Set up as you did on the other side, the prop behind you, and then recline back, taking your time to settle in. Again, as you land, be intentional about how you keep drawing your attention to the present moment. The first few breaths are an inhale, filling the belly, and an exhale, inviting softness and surrender. Inhale, filling the belly like a balloon into all directions. Exhale, let everything get heavy and passive. over the next couple of breaths, begin to guide yourself out, either moving the legs or the upper body first, whatever feels most safe and supportive for you. Making your way to a rebound on your back. Once again, bend the knees, soles of the feet to the earth, and a slow transition up, rolling to one side, lifting yourself up into a seat. And come now into some releases for the feet and the ankles. The first one will be a toe sit. So sitting on your knees with the toes tucked under, flick the little pinky toes under as well. We don't want to leave them out. And then you can either sit upright, hips and pelvis nice and heavy into the heels, or you might prefer to lean forward a little to take out some of the pressure, and you can come down at any time. We won't be here as long as the other holds. Close down the eyes. Soften the shoulders and the face wherever you are. On each inhale, fill the belly, fill every cell of the body. On each exhale, let the hips and pelvis get heavy. Let the front of the thighs, the calves soften. Let the belly release any holding. Inhaling to fill and nourish. Exhaling to ground and root. 5 more breaths and then release. You might like a big sigh out on the exhale. Last 2. Last 1. Lean forward if you're upright. Our rebound from this one will be lying on our bellies. Try to resist tapping the feet. If you really need it, you can go for it. Lie down, chest and forehead, either to stacked palms or arms by your sides, one cheek to the mat. Watch the sensation move through the toes, the backs of the feet, backs of the legs, rehydrating these spaces. With the belly on the earth, notice how the inhale is resisted by the earth and the back of the lungs and the sides of the lungs expand a little more. On the exhale, everything melting down. If you've got one cheek down, swap to the other side to even out through the neck. Bring the hands under the shoulders, the forehead to the mat, and gently press yourself back through a child's pose just for a moment. The knees together, feet together, forehead towards the mat, hips towards the heels. And then sitting up on the heels again. Our second release through the feet will be through the front and the ankles. So you can stay here if this is enough. You might add to it by simply leaning back a little, or maybe as you lean back you lift the knees, and maybe that adds some more sensation through the front of the ankles and the feet. I quite like to bring either a rolled up blanket, or if you have the space, maybe a bolster underneath the knees, or a block or cushion. And then resting the hands on top of the thighs, close down the eyes. Find that breath. Inhaling for nourishment. Exhaling for letting go. 5 more breaths. After your 5th exhale, gently release any props that might be involved. And we'll make, for the final time, our way onto our backs. Make sure you've got a cushion or bolster about halfway down your mat so that it's within reach. And maybe a blanket nearby, as we'll stay on our backs until we make our way to Shavasana. Rebounding for now, fully neutral. Watching now as the front of the ankles, the feet, perhaps the front of the shins become hydrated and nourished with prana, vital life force. Bring the feet to the earth one at a time so that the knees are lifted, and you can press into the feet to lift the hips and drag your bolster or cushion, maybe a block underneath the hips. Something soft will likely be more comfortable. And then extend the feet up to the sky into your waterfall shape. There might be some sensation through the back of the legs here. If not, that's okay. Allowing blood to rush down from the lower body. Coming back to the heart. Inviting the parasympathetic nervous system to come to the forefront. Letting the knees be softly bent, the feet and ankles relaxed. Making each inhale deeper and smoother than the last. Each exhale slower and smoother than the last. Letting all of your awareness again ride these waves of breath. Perhaps you start to linger in the space between the breaths, just floating on the surface for a moment before effortlessly moving into the exhale or the inhale. Five more nourishing breaths here, washing through each cell, washing through the nervous system, no rush at all. Move slowly. After your fifth exhale, draw the knees in towards the chest, perhaps giving them a little cuddle, this gesture of love and care into your lower body, into yourself. Stay here for as long as you'd like if it feels nice. Eventually bringing the feet back to the earth in front of your prop, lifting the hips and either taking the cushion or bolster to the side or dragging it underneath your knees to begin to set up for Shavasana. You might have a cushion under the head or a folded blanket to help elongate the back of the neck. And you might have a blanket draped over you for some warmth. Take your time to set this up in a way that feels fully restful and restorative. Maybe there's a piece of clothing or a cloth over the eyes to block out the light. Landing here in this final surrender into stillness, and this full integration of your practice. Resting in the low, slow hum of your rested nervous system. Resting fully into the present moment. No rush to leave it. And don't miss this moment, because it won't be here in this way ever again. I'll guide you out when it's time. Take a slow breath in. Slow breath out. Remaining in stillness for a few more moments. As you notice the silence, the peace, the settled part of you. Simply recognize how or where you feel that in the body. So that you can remember this feeling as you move into your day or week ahead. Knowing that it's always there, but perhaps veiled or covered up by thoughts, by activity, by other sensations. But it's there. It's always there. Remaining tethered to that deep stillness and silence within. You might choose to deepen the breath. Bring some subtle, intuitive movement back to the body. Through the fingers and toes, perhaps rolling the head side to side. Eventually bending the knees, making your way to a preferred side. Resting here for a moment, cocooning in on yourself. And then take your time to come up to a comfortable seat. Any seat is a good seat. You might be cross-legged, might lean against a wall or sit on your shins. When you get there, bring one hand to your heart and the other to your belly. Bow down to your heart space. In gratitude for yourself for choosing to slow down and to pause in order to go within. In gratitude for this incredible practice of yin yoga, the ancient teachings of yoga and of Chinese medicine that inform this practice and give us this pathway to come home to ourselves as rested, vibrant beings. Sealing off with one clearing breath, inhale. Part the lips, let it go. Namaste.